Hey everyone, welcome to Restaurant Tech Trends, where we explore restaurant technology trends with some of the industry's biggest movers and shakers in a rapid fire short interview format. Today's podcast is produced by Incept AI. Incept AI takes restaurant orders over the phone and in noisy drive-thrus with friendliness and precision. Learn more at incept.ai. Now for today's guest. I'm joined by David Greschler, who is CEO and co-founder of NomadGo, an AI platform that automates restaurant inventory using on-device spatial vision. Operators report 10x faster inventory counts with up to 99% accuracy, which is pretty incredible. Before NomadGo, David co-founded a company called Softricity, which was acquired by Microsoft. Nice feather in your hat there, David. Today, we're going to unpack speed, accuracy, labor savings, and where AI inventory is headed next. David, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Justin, and thanks for having me.
I'm very glad that you chose to join and appreciate all of your support over the past year. First, I'd like to just dive in a little bit about the idea behind NomadGo. I'd like to know, how did you choose to start this company? Did you immediately understand the problem here with inventory, or did you just kind of stumble into this? Would love to learn a little bit more about the early days.
Sure. Well, like any good entrepreneur, we mostly stumbled into it. But I will say, when I was in college, I worked in a retail environment, and one of the worst jobs I had there was, you guessed it, counting inventory with my fingers. And it turns out that that problem is all over the world and still happens today. Until Nomad Go, there's really been no technology to really help solve this problem. So we found out about it within the food service business by working with one of the largest QSRs, working on a different problem for them. And they saw that we were doing a good job there. And they said, well, have you ever counted cups? And we said, yeah, I guess we could count cups. And the next thing you know, we were counting everything in that store and found out that the problem is immense, that when people count manually, it's slow, which means you can't do it frequently, which means you don't have good data, fresh data, and it's boring. And people hate counting inventory. And so it means you have unhappy employees. So the combination
Yeah,
slow and, unpleasant doesn't make for good accuracy, and accuracy is what people need.
got it. I'd like to dive a little bit more into just computer vision in general because I see companies in this space, some are focused on using computer vision to solve a very specific problem, like what you're doing at NomadGo with inventory. And then I've also talked to folks that say, hey, computer vision is actually a platform that's used to solve all sorts of different things. How do you see computer vision in the restaurant QSR space in particular evolving over, say, the next 2 to 3 years? Is this going to be sort of a best of breed world, or is this going to be something where you have like one computer vision platform that manages all problems that can be solved with computer vision?
Well, first, I'm going to say, if computer vision is the answer and the question is, inventory, then
Hmm.
that's not going to work. What
Okay.
we have learned is that computer vision is a great ingredient in the solution. But as you know, we call our technology spatial vision
Right.
because only being able to see the front of that shelf, and maybe determining if something's there or out of stock is not going to work for inventory. You need to know how many items are on that shelf, how many items are in that refrigerator. And the only
Right.
way to do that is to understand the world in 3D. So
Mm.
we combine computer vision with other technologies, including spatial understanding of the 3D world, including augmented reality to give people real-time feedback, including on-device AI, which means that it's happening in real time instead of
Right.
sending imagery up to the cloud. So what I would say is, if you're trying to solve the inventory problem, computer vision is just a small piece of it. And
I
that's
understand.
what we've learned. Having said that, I think answering your bigger question about computer vision, Yeah, there's no doubt that computer vision sort of replaces the eyes, and there are many different uses case out there, and many companies out there using it. And in some cases, they don't necessarily need to understand the world in 3D, so perhaps computer vision is good enough. What I will say is, I do not believe there'll be one computer vision company to solve all these problems, because each of these problems have deep, deep
Right.
issues that they need to solve, deep integrations. So, like for instance, we do very deep integrations with back office folks like PAR. We
Yep.
have to connect to understand what stores are online. Inventory changes all the time, so we have to constantly refresh the list of inventory. All that really deep knowledge, I believe, is true of all the problems out there. So I think what you're going to see is more the best, one for tracking drive-through, the best one for whatever it is. I don't believe, it's kind of like saying, well, I'm an internet provider, so I can do every website in the world. That's not going to way. That's not how it works.
Yeah, I think I probably tend to agree with you. Of course, no one really has the answer. We'll see how things evolve. But I've had this conversation with you before. We talk about the depth of the problems that we're trying to solve and all of the thousands of little edge cases and the deep understanding you have to have to solve any one of these use cases, whether that's vision or what we're doing with voice. So anyway,
Yeah,
we'll see how it goes. I'd like to talk a little bit about how you are measuring success. So you have this claim: 10x higher, faster counts,
yeah,
99% accuracy. These are pretty heady claims to make. And I'm curious exactly how are you measuring this? How are you proving it out in the field? And is that like the best that it can get, or is that a typical result that a client would have
yeah.
that's using NomadGo?
So we let our customers validate those numbers.
Hmm.
That's the only way you can really do it. And the way they do it is they use our product, and then they actually go back to that shelf or that refrigerator or make line, and then they do the manual count, which of course takes them 10 times as long. But then they can validate that we actually said when there's four milk jugs that there's actually four milk jugs in that row. Because when our product is working, it's literally kind of creating a 3D world. If you watch any of our videos, you'll see that.
Hmm.
But what it does then is that it turns it into a list. Now that list is enriched with information around, well, where was that, tetra of lemonade? And it might be, as you know, food service, kind of hard to keep it super organized. It might be on three different shelves. So we'll actually say we saw three on shelf one, two on shelf two, and five on shelf three, right? And for a, total number. So people can easily then go, and they do this clearly the first few times they're using our product, and they can validate against it and go, well, there really are, whatever, 10 lemonades. Is that actually correct? So validation is super easy because they have the list and they can see it. The second part of this is accuracy. And what we've learned, and this is why fixed cameras are never going to work for inventory, because you know, first of all, you can't get them into good places. Like, how do you put a camera in a refrigerator? Or, how do
Hmm.
we all know food service, like, it's a mess back there. People are, leasing these spaces. They have to accommodate that, right? And so the other thing we learned is, wait, there is a person, because it's 10 times faster, it's okay to put a person behind that screen. And we call this user in the loop, right? Which means that while the person's scanning, we have built tools so they can kind of in real time validate and make adjustments. If we say, oh, there's five milk jugs and there's only four, there are these little paddles where they just pop like a video game, make it four. If we're saying it's chai and it's really whatever, coconut milk, they can actually use their voice and change that to coconut milk. And the whole point is you're using the person, they're already there, and now you can get yourself to 99% accuracy because
Hmm.
you not only have Nomad Go, done a really good job, but those little edge cases can get added to by the human. Because at the end of the
Hmm.
day, what do you care about? Frequent, highly accurate inventory data. That's what matters.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about how long it takes for restaurant operators to actually start seeing value from using this product.
So usually it'll take, 2 to 3 weeks to be up and running. What is important though is there are some major brands out there, folks like Popeyes, Burger Kings, and so on. And we've been working with folks like that, the franchisees and so on. And so we have built solutions. that are now ready to go for those major brands.
Well, let's pull back and speak more generally about AI in restaurants. I'm curious, what is one trend that you see out there today, or one technology that you think is just really overhyped that you wish operators would just drop, or just tell them, hey, this is great, you're trying this, but maybe try again in 5 years?
You know, I would take the opposite view. I think that people have not thought enough about how AI can help them. And it doesn't
Okay.
mean they have to deploy it to, all their stores right away, but AI is revealing itself to be pretty damn smart. And
Yeah.
at the end of the day, right, I think that there's a misconception, and it's always been around with technology, that technology will replace people. But really, I see it as a pulley. Like ChatGPT to me, for me, is like a pulley. It just like instead of having to, kind of do this initial push of I'm going to write a proposal or whatever, it gives me that first draft, and then I still bring
I
my
agree.
human intelligence to it. So no, I think we need more smart people like you, Justin, by the way, you know, thinking about how this technology can help make the physical world more efficient. Because that's the challenge. The beautiful thing about restaurants, right? It's the physical world. Like all these people right now with LLMs, a lot of the stuff they're doing is kind of this knowledge world, right? It's two-dimensional. It's,
Right.
hey, do an analysis of the spreadsheet, blah, blah, blah. But like what NomadGo's doing, and to a certain degree, you as well, because you're doing voice. Those are photons and atoms, right? And that's the this is the next generation of AI, the stuff you and I are working on, right? It's the physical world. How can you take that, capture it, and provide data that is useful to both the folks who own these companies and also their customers?
All right. Well, David, we're almost out of time, so it's
Yeah.
time to move on to our rapid fire questions. And for
All right.
everyone that's out there, David has no idea what these questions are. So let's hear what you've got to say, David. What is the best food to stress test spatial AI vision? Fry bins, sauce cups, chopped lettuce.
I'd say this because it's kind of
Chopped lettuce.
cool because chopped lettuce, you have to recognize that it's chopped versus maybe, single layer. So
All right.
it was a pretty big challenge, and now we have it.
What is the most over ordered condiment in America? Ranch, ketchup, or hot sauce?
Hot sauce.
Hot sauce. What cooler would you rather run an inventory count in? A walk in fridge or a walk in freezer?
Well, okay, that's a great one because we have heard over and over again from customers around walk-in fridges and how when they were using a pen and paper to write down what they saw, the ink in the pen would freeze. And they hate being in there anyway, right? Like they sometimes they have to wear jackets. That's actually why they love Nomad Go because they're like, oh my God, we'd spend like, 20 minutes in there and I'm about, to freeze myself and, I can get it done in 5 with Nomad Go. So I'm going to say walk-in freezer.
Plus, maybe your iPad makes a little bit of heat, can keep your
Yeah,
hands
you're
warm.
right. Nice and all those CPUs and GPUs heating up.
All right. Edge AI or cloud first?
Oh, come on. Edge AI
I,
all the way. And here's why. Okay. Cloud first is like, I mean, cloud supporting, I like. Yeah, send the data up there. But like, I even think you're going to see one day, I mean, Apple's already talking about it. Look, guys, those devices we have in our pocket, they're not just computers, they're data centers. They've got GPUs, CPUs, neural engines, right? This is the cloud. I mean, I've been in computing, I mean, my gray hair tells you I've been in computing a long time, right? It's always a mix. It always starts up at the, in the cloud, or we used to call them servers back then, but it always ends up on the edge because economically it's much better. It doesn't clog your network. And,
Mhm.
we just have to figure out a way to make those devices that are on the edge smart, which they are.
For
So,
some things, not for all things. I think,
yeah.
in the voice space, we're not quite there yet, but I agree with you. It will trend that direction over the years.
Oh,
So,
yeah. I mean, when you look at these devices that, like I said, are in our pocket, and you just think about how even we've seen it as we've been doing inventory AI over the last 4 years, how much faster those chips are, it's just all in our favor, right?
mhm.
It will happen.
I got a few more for you, but we're out of time,
Okay.
unfortunately. So, David, I wanted to thank you for coming on today and joining me. Everyone, David Greschler, CEO and co-founder of NomadGo. Thanks, David.
Well, thank you, Justin. This has been fun. I kind of wish you could have asked me more of those rapid fires because they are fun. But okay, we'll do it another time.